Hey guys, today we have a 2004 GMC Yukon, but this would also pertain to the Chevy Tahoe and the Silverado. It's kind of the same engine, but this guy's overheating. So what we notice is that this gauge goes up pretty high when it's running, and it's getting up around 210. You really don't want it to go up to 210. If that happens, please pull over and stop, turn off your engine, let it cool, and that'll probably prevent you from some really expensive engine damage. Today we're going to be replacing this little guy, which is a $15 part called the thermostat, and this thing opens and closes and lets the hot water that's around the engine, that's cooling the engine, travel over to the radiator where it can cool down even more. But sometimes these things get stuck, they get worn out, and this is a 20-year-old car. I think this has never been changed, so this little $15 part probably is going to fix the problem. And if you stay till the end of the video, we'll go over some other ideas of things that could also be happening that are causing it to overheat, but most likely it's just this little guy. So again, if you get up to around 210, it's best just to pull over and let it cool down. If you had to run it for a while, for some reason, when it was overheating, you just had to get a few more miles, I'd watch that gauge very carefully, because you don't want to get it up around, past the, see where the 210 is, to go to the next big marker. You could really get some serious engine damage. But if you had to go a little further, if you turn your heater on full blast and then take it up to the fan speed of maybe medium, you can roll down your windows. That'll get you a little further, because there's another radiator in here that might help to circulate the water. But probably the best thing is for you to just pull over and let it cool down. You might even be able to replace this thing on the road. And again, this is called the thermostat. Let's look over where it is going to show up in your car. Again, this is a 2004 GMC Yukon, and look over here, this is on the passenger side. And let me turn on my little light here. Down into this area. See, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to point to it with my finger. Right where my index finger is, behind that is this thing, the thermostat. So we're going to get to that today and just change it out. And again, this is a $15 part. You do have to get some more radiator fluid, but all we got to do is get some of this stuff out of the way and we'll replace that. I'm just putting a little drain pan here underneath the car to catch most of the radiator fluid that's going to come out when I remove the thermostat. You can remove a radiator hose here at the bottom and let the fluid drain out, but I'm just going to let some of it come out from the top near the thermostat when I remove it. I'm just going to remove the thermostat just slightly and let the fluid come out slowly, and once it's all the way out, I'll take the thermostat all the way off. All right, we have an 8mm bolt we're going to take out to get this little cover off. Just take you a second. Zip that out. Lift up on this guy. We're going to get off this whole assembly next. Got to loosen up on this one. There's also 8mm, and then there's one over here. Alright, we can get the snorkel off. Okay, we're going to pull this one off. Got it. Let's pull this one off. Got it. I'm going to get the snorkel out of here. Lift up. We have one little bracket here we got to get off. And we just have to pry off this one. There we go. Okay, we can get the snorkel out of there. Lift up. Just gonna let that sit over here for a second. It gives us a lot more room to get to here, and that's where the thermostat is. And you certainly can remove this radiator hose, but you may not need to. I think we just need to remove this 10mm bolt and the one below it. Let's do that next. All right, just going to remove this 10mm bolt here on the top. May get a little fluid coming out. So I got my pan down there underneath. Yeah, there we go. Some little fluid's coming out. And I am going to track that fluid underneath and make sure my pan is in the right place. Look down underneath. Let that stuff drain out. Okay, pretty close. There we go. So just let that radiator fluid collect there. When it stops, then I'll take off the rest of the thermostat housing. Okay guys, I'm on the bottom bolt now. I got the top one out where my index finger is. I'm on the bottom one with my 10mm. Loosen that one up. I got my pan still down there, so you get more radiator fluid coming out. So if you don't remove a bunch of the components, you don't have as much room to work here, but it's enough. And I'm just going to get this one out and then we'll take off the housing. So now that I have the other both off or loosened, one fully off and one loosened, it's coming out a lot faster. I just wait till that all calms down and then I'll pull the other one. While you're letting all that drain, you could check your oil real quick to see if your dipstick shows there may be some radiator fluid that has now entered into with your oil, which would not be good. That'd be like something wrong with your head gasket or crack somewhere. And that would explain why your car is overheating and you don't see any dripping anywhere. So let's just take a quick look. Usually you'll see kind of a foamy condition on your dipstick. Let's take a look at this one. This one's definitely low on oil, but the condition of the oil looks good. There's no foam. It's like at least a quart. No foam, and looks like fairly new oil. So that's good. Another thing you could look at if you're getting overheating is just how much radiator fluid you have in your expansion tank. And remember, you never want to take this off if you feel like your car is really hot, because you can get a lot of steam coming out. It could be dangerous. Let it cool down first, and you can open that up and you can take a look. There's also markers on the side that'll tell you how much fluid you have in. We don't have much right now because we just lost a lot of fluid. But if you're down too low with fluid, then if you top it off, that might be all it takes to get your engine cooling again. And if you are down on fluid, you may suspect that one of your hoses, probably the lower radiator hose, has a small pinhole leak and you're losing fluid. And these hoses are really cheap. Here's the lower one, here's the upper one. And the other thing that could be happening, it's less likely though, is the water pump, which is not that expensive. I think they're about maybe $150 for this model, which is this thing where my hands are. Comes off fairly easily and easy to replace. Could be the problem too, but we want to go with the adage that we use often in repairs. Go with the most likely suspect, which is the thermostat, and it's easy to get to. I think we might be all done with the fluid draining. Yeah, if I wiggle this, I'm not getting any more fluid, so we're going to go ahead and remove those screws and switch out the thermostat. So I just pulled out the bottom 10mm bolt, and let me pull out the top one for the thermostat housing. There's the top one. Now you can leave the hose intact. I'm going to pull out this housing with the old thermostat. You just got to grab this guy, kind of wiggle, should come out. Might get a little more fluid though, be careful. And keep it over the drain pan. Yep, a lot of fluid all of a sudden, right? Got fluid going to my drain pan. I'll go ahead and lift this up so I don't lose too much fluid. So I just pulled that housing and that hose up high. I'm retaining some of my radiator fluid. Here's my old thermostat, and probably, most likely, this thing was just no longer opening and closing at the right temperature. So the water around the jackets where the pistons are was getting very hot, and it wasn't able to get over to the radiator to cool down. So that new thermostat will do the trick. Before you replace it though, take a look at two surfaces. One is in here where the new one's going to go, and just clean it out with a rag. If you see a little bit of residual stuff, clean it out. And the other surface would be right here where that meets. Just make sure that's nice and clean. That'll give you a better connection for when you reattach it. This surface cleaned up pretty good. We're going to do this one. And we can put in the new thermostat, put it back together. And maybe for around 15 bucks, we'll be back in business. Test it. Once we get the new thermostat in, we'll go ahead and add some new fluid. All right, that's good. So we'll get our new one. Here's our new one. You'll note that there's this little brass piece at the top, and also, you guys can see this, there's a little rubber protrusion that's going to point up. So we want to make sure we get that put back in correctly. So if you look at the housing, there should be a little spot for that to fit in right there. And you guys can see that it's over by this left hole. There's a spot for that rubber piece, so we're going to put that in accordingly. Have it sit down in there nice and tight, nice and flat, it's watertight. Yeah, perfect. Okay, now we're going to carefully get our thermostat into the water pump. Close those guys, and we're going to put our bolts back in just loosely, and then we'll tighten them up and start putting it back together. Now I'm 6'4". I've got a pretty tall legs and tall body, and it's a little awkward for me to get in here. For most people though, I would stand on something so that you can get in at these angles and not hurt your back. I'm just going to get this in by hand here. I'll get it snug, and then I'll get the other one in too. So we have both screws back in now, just very loose by hand. One at the top, one at the bottom. Let's go ahead and start tensing these down. You do ideally want to use a torque wrench to get these at the exact right foot-pounds of pressure, which I think is 11 pounds. But I'm just going to, I don't have my torque wrench, so I'm just going to get it nice and tight. And you can just alternate back and forth between the top and the bottom as you're tightening it, so that it's kind of even pressure. And then once it's tight, it shouldn't have any more leaking. So we got my 10mm long socket there, and I've got a little adapter. And I've got my ratchet, and I'm just getting these tight. All right, that's gonna do it. We got the same on the bottom. We are good, you guys. Let's go ahead and put the rest of it back together, and we'll give it a test. So next up, let's put the air snorkel back. This whole thing kind of fits down into that cavity. It's over here next to the throttle body, and wiggle that throttle body. It's in position. Put that on there. Nice. And we got our hose clamp. There's a little relief here for right there. I want to get that little relief right there. Plastic tab goes in the relief on the clamp. We're going to tighten this one up. Nice. We'll go ahead and tighten up. We'll get this one on the throttle body. Pin is going to go in that hole for the clamp. Back in. Wiggle it in. Almost there. Okay, that's wiggled on. That one's good. This we never took off. This one, back in. Let's tighten up that one. put our cover back on first. These little slots are going to go into two openings here. First up, set it down, tighten this guy. Got it. Okay. So remember, you don't want to take this off if the system's hot, but this has been cooled down overnight. So you open this up, and we're going to fill this, and we're going to run the engine. We're going to actually turn on the heater to let some of the water run into the small radiator near the heater, and we're going to get these levels correct. So when you use this stuff, you want to make sure you get one that will work for the GM. This, you know, the GM would be like the Tahoe, the Yukon, the Silverado, and for this brand they call it the orange one. This is a 50-50 blend, so you don't have to add water. A little security thing. Clean that up. Okay, and then just pour it on in. We'll start it up and let it run for about 10 minutes. And watch the heat as we do that. Make sure it doesn't overheat. And when you're running the engine during this burping process, kind of let air burp out of the system and then fluid go into the system. So you want to keep this cap off during that 10-minute run. We're going to turn the heater on. We're going to turn the fan to like a medium speed. And we're going to just let it run, but we're going to watch that temperature gauge very carefully. Because again, we don't want to let it go above 210. I don't think it will, but if it does, we'll just shut it off, let it cool for a little bit. There we go, so that's max for that one. And we'll keep the cap off. Let's start the engine next. Okay, we're inside the starter up. We got this on hot. We got this on hot. Turn on that fan, turn on that fan. And we're gonna just let it run. You know, we're gonna keep an eye on that temperature gauge though. So we wanna go about 10 minutes. So we're looking down in there where the thermostat housing is. We want to make sure we don't see any leaks. Looks good though. Nothing coming out of that bottom hose. Nothing coming out of where we tighten those screws, those bolts. Doing good. We just need to add some more fluid. So during the warm-up phase, thermostat stays closed to allow the water around the jackets to warm up. Actually helps your engine warm up. Once it hits a certain temperature though, it doesn't want to get any hotter, so it's going to spread that water. It's going to open up, spread the water into the radiator. We want to make sure that's going to happen. Radiator fluid does have kind of a shelf life. At just a certain point is not going to be as effective. So renewing it is a good idea. This was done recently though, so it's okay to use this because it's pretty new. Not to use that stuff at the end of it though, so it's a bit dirty. Yeah, we can see the fluid now. We're getting up there to the right level. That's good. Let's add a little more. All right, let's check our gauge, make sure it's doing okay. Fluid level is looking good. I believe you don't want to go to the top with this. I believe you want to go about where we're at. It's good. Still keeping this open so that the fluid can go in and the air can escape. Check out our gauges. Oh yeah, we're good, you guys. Check it out. So even though it's been going about 8 minutes now, it's not overheating. Yesterday, before we had done the thermostat, at 8 minutes it was already above 210. And again, around 210 can cause some damage. So other things you want to look at too for cooling is the fan turning. It has a clutch, and as the fan belt spins, it's going to start the spinning. but if that clutch is messed up, it won't spin. Also, if that serpentine belt is broken, it won't spin. And if it can't spin, it won't cool down. The other thing you can do too is take a garden hose when it's off. Don't do this when it's on, but take a garden hose and squirt it in pretty heavy pressure from here so it hits the radiator, which is sitting right here, and pushes all the dirt out. So the cleaner that is, the better. But I think we're doing all right. I think our problem today was the most common, which is a faulty thermostat that just doesn't open at the right temperature, stays closed, and water can't leave the area around the engine. It can't travel into the radiator and cool down. So we're not really getting any fluid loss either, so that's good. That means it's not leaking anywhere, and I think it's already probably opened up the thermostat, and that fluid is now in this area, which is good. I'm going to put this cap back on. Take it for a test drive too to make sure we got it. Cool. So thanks for watching, you guys. This has helped you. I really appreciate if you guys can subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscription button, and then press the little bell notification too, so we can notify you when new videos come out. Thanks so much for watching our video. I hope that helped you to save some time and money. Hope you'll click on the subscribe link below in the description below, and also then on the little bell notification, so we can send you weekly videos like this one that will help you to fix the appliances around your home. If you need any extra live help to help with your project, just click on the link in the upper right hand corner here or in the description below. That'll get you some live expert help. I'll be glad to give you a call or a text or a Zoom call where we can work out any kind of problem you're having and help you to get your appliance working good in short order and save you a lot of money. So thanks again for watching and for supporting our channel, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.